Over 9 years ago, on the 10th of November, 2008, I was lying on a floor in a facility, grappling for my life. I never knew that the spirit and the soul can go to darkness like that, where you physically can't even fight to survive, to live. I didn't know how to stay alive. I didn't know how, I didn't want to. But I was too scared to live, and I was too scared to die. Out of that dark place, I had people show me the way. And the first thing was to look in the mirror and just own it, to see who I really was, so I could work with that. And it was a cracked mirror. But what I did learn very powerfufully is I needed that crack. I needed to be broken because it's the only way light could come in and heal me. From that brokenness came light, loving, shining, wholesome light that just started filtrating into my soul and healing me, and allowed my body to start moving again, and allowed my body to start getting up and moving into a place of service, which I have discovered to be the only place where life should be. That is where humanity meets humanity and where love thrives.
I've been lucky enough to run all over the world and race all over the world, but I'm really passionate to be South African and come from Africa. So I can really resonate with what Andre and the Southern Lodestar Foundation are doing. Giving back to the various communities around Africa.
When you're out there, it doesn't matter whether you're a CEO of a company or whether you're a street sweeper, you're all the same. You get to understand people more on a human level.
Well, if you've just arrived, welcome to the start-finish venue, Yard 41, for the inaugural Cliff 100. We are 40 minutes away from start. We're going to be calling you to get your trackers on pretty soon. Let's do a tracking allocation, make sure reaching your way.
As a distance, the 100 mile is often considered the ultimate distance in trail running. The Cliff 100 is the first 100 mile trail race in KZN.
You've got to be a bit cuckoo to do it, which most of these long distance ultra runners are.
I'm probably itching to get going as much as they are.
I'm scared, but that's part of it. So I've never done 100 miles before in one shot.
How are you?
Good.
How's it, Alex? How's it? I don't have words. It's like, I think this describes how I'm feeling. Yeah.
I haven't actually raced in about 3 years. I've just backed away from racing for a while. I think I had a little bit of exhaustion. So this is my first time to do a big one again, so I'm a little bit nervous. What everybody worries about, not finishing, not being able to finish. There are a lot of things can happen out there, that are out of your control.
Yeah, that question, what can go wrong out there? Like, you name it, and it can go wrong.
I'm very interested to see how my body reacts to running 160 Ks. As my brother said to me, get comfortable being uncomfortable.
I'm actually very shy, so I'm really happy there are only 48 of us running apparently. So for the first time in my life, I'm going to be a top 50 in a long distance run.
Rob said he's going to come second. Yeah, that's just reality. The top 50, that's all I'll go to.
Welcome officially to the first Car Kloof 100.
I would love to finish tomorrow, Saturday, early evening. I'd love to finish. I think that's about 24 hours. But I would love to do a sub 24 hour. This is my first 100 miler. So it's there to finish and there to experience.
Probably about 4 years ago, the first time the word Car Kloof 100 came out of my mouth, but I didn't think we'd actually be here quite this soon. And for a lot of you, it's a pinnacle, and for us, it's certainly a pinnacle. So let's go out there and let's do this thing, guys.
It's not about winning for me. It's about hopefully getting to the end. Hopefully, you might be recording me being loaded on the back of a bakkie by you. But if I can make it, I'll be so very grateful and celebrate life and the joy of being healthy.
2 minutes to go. Woohoo! 2 minutes to go. Very nice.
It's the journey of life. I mean, we're so focused on the end goal as a society and instant gratification. And these kind of journeys forces one to really take stock and be present. I started running when I was a farm boy, and I always ran barefoot, and I loved the way my feet got stronger. It was real. I loved it as a child. Later on in life, when I started running again, it was really just that reference, that memory, that I was always happy when I ran. Matt's been part of someone I was meant to meet. It was serendipity, synchronicity.
I met Andre about a year and a half ago. I was a strength and conditioning coach in Velocity Sports Lab in Hilton. He was seeing the other coach at the same time.
The day before I met Andre, I asked Matt what his goals were, because it's something I'm passionate about, and he just mentioned this race called MDS. So I didn't know what Marathon des Sables was, but he mentioned it's a 250K event. So when Andre came for his assessment,
she asked me what do I want to get out of my training, and without thinking, I said Marathon des Sables.
And I just like, no way, that's just ridiculous, because Matt had mentioned it the day before.
We came to an agreement that I would help him to do the Marathon des Sables if he listened to what I had to say.
When Andre came in, he hadn't been training for maybe 10 years, so he couldn't run 3Ks. We had a year to get him ready.
That Monday morning, I met Andre and we did our first 3 kilometers. And from that 3 kilometers, I knew that he would finish the Marathon des Sables, even though he walked most of the way. Because on Tuesday, he was back again. Wednesday, he was back again. And it just kept going.
So when he came back from Marathon des Sables, he was absolutely changed man, just ready and firing to go.
Matt's always been my blimp. He's always been way ahead of me, that little speck in the horizon in front there, running somewhere far ahead of me, which is fine. Hopefully with my training, the blimp will become a blob.
Well done, guys.
I was petrified, to be honest with you. I've done comrades, and I know what it's like to finish a comrades, and I know what my body's like when I'm finished. I'm completely gone. And in my head, all I realized that I had 2 of those to do back to back.
Good evening.
These kind of things, ignorance is bliss. I've never run 100 miles in one stretch, so I had no clue. So I figured, wing it. Worst case scenario, stop.
Nice and wet now. So, what's it, 1 stop to go? How many left? 9 left.
I didn't really sense the amount of rain. I gathered it was very wet. And I thought, oh, maybe this weather will freak some people out and they'll drop out. I know it wouldn't freak me out.
I've done a few races where I've run through the night, but the mist was extremely bad, so we got lost a lot, which is not good for the mind because if you don't want to run any further distance than you want to in 160 kilometers.
I guess the deepest desire is to feel alive. And that's certainly why I run. Because it reminds me that I'm flesh.
The best thing about running at night is you almost get into a zone. And you get to a stage where you're constantly looking for the sun to rise. And it finally did. My biggest concern was that Rob, Andre, or I wouldn't make it. Not because I didn't believe in them finishing the race, it's because it's 160 kilometers and anything can happen.
I started feeling some pain when the sunrise came up. It was cold and I started feeling exhaustion, but not that I wanted to give up yet.
I would have loved to see a sunrise, but this is good. I'm loving the mud. I have to take every phase as it comes. I'm just grateful right now. Feels like I can do it. My legs are a bit sore at the moment. So going through a little bit of a bad patch, but I'm okay. I'm sure I'll bounce back just now.
I didn't sense how much Rob was struggling. He didn't communicate much. He's an optimist. So he wouldn't mull on his pain, but I gathered there was pain. And, I felt for him, but again, he didn't communicate much about that. He was also just getting to the next station and us moving on. I then started telling myself that Rob's running his own race and I've got to run my race for the sake of getting to the halfway mark at least, because I had said to myself, let me just get to halfway and then make up my mind, decide if I'm going to carry on. And I started speeding up and I started running because I felt stronger.
Judging by the way he's bolting off now, obviously feeling pretty good.
We got into this young pine plantation. I noticed a human being with 2 other humans supporting this person. She had hypothermia. It made me reflect on where I was at, almost too much. I just wanted to get to Bana. I knew then it was one more stretch to the halfway mark, and I did. By then I wasn't in a good place in my head. I grabbed a hot cup of Milo coffee mix, and then I came around the corner and I was so surprised to see my partner there, because I honestly believed I'd only see him at the end of the race. It was wonderful to have sense of family there, and it just gave me perspective again. Gave me that insight of humanity, of love, took the self-obsession away and made me look out. And it's a wonderful lesson how we can speak disease into our lives. It all comes from the mind. It's the power of the mind. And just by resetting and getting a slap of love, you can really just snap out of it and carry on.
I'm going to give it a go, one step at a time, and see how we go.
In my head, I almost thought to myself, I'm only going to go halfway.
My goal was to get to halfway at 7 o'clock in the morning, where the 50 miler was going to start. I got to halfway 30 seconds to 7 o'clock in the morning. At that stage, I was going into a cold injury. I only realized that when I saw the guy that was in front of me, who was leading at one stage, being taken care of at halfway. I realized that I needed to make a change very quickly. So as change of clothing, I took something on board to eat, and I decided to get out there as quick as possible. The longer I hung around at halfway was going to be tougher for me.
It's kind of getting to the hard part of the race. It's obviously, conditions are pretty extreme. It's really wet, and yeah, it makes it really tough to keep moving and to keep a motivation. The guys, I think, are really having to dig deep, like mentally and also physically. I think the cold conditions really take its toll on your body. It almost just kind of absorbs into your body, and just like everything feels cold. And Rob is even saying like he's kind of running bits that he probably wouldn't normally run, but it's just to actually try and keep warm. Because I know in conditions like this, like running, it's still like uncomfortable, but as soon as you start walking, you just like get really cold shivers throughout your body. And I know one lady already had got hypothermia. Conditions aren't that easy out there.
I was amazed that last stretch, how long the halfway mark still was. I've always heard about BMV Gardens and the amazing trees. After that darkness, there was this beauty. Just getting there was the reason I ran the race. To run that distance and walk into the space was such a huge reward. I understand now how and where the architects maybe were inspired when they built the first cathedrals ever. It was such an amazing blessing to be able to walk up that cathedral. That's just my understanding of God, which is light and beauty. I felt peace, I felt well, and I said to the guys, I'm going to finish the race.
Actually, my calf muscles really sore, and my knee, my right leg. So it's really slowed me down a lot. Sure. So I can't run downhill, which is a bit of a pain. Glad to be here. Yeah, I need to make a bit of have a think about it.
I wanted to see Rob before I departed again. I did. You had decided to then stop, and I would carry on. My pace was good. I was passing guys. I wasn't at the end. I was skipping. Leaving Benvie Gardens, I was skipping. Skipping for about 5 kilometers, and then all the wheels fell off. I felt on top of the world, and my ankles started feeling sore. It was just sudden, and I couldn't believe it. And I thought, but why are my ankles sore? I thought maybe my shoelaces are too tight. So I loosened my laces, I lowered them on my shoes, and I started walking, but there was pain.
I didn't realize how sore he was because, I mean, he was just like, oh, fine, I'm happy. You know, he never really had a negative moment.
Thank you for him.
I just said to myself, look, I'm already more than halfway. I'm not stopping. Forget it. If I lost my legs, I'd crawl.
The pain through the 100-miler is almost undescribable in a sense that it's all over the place and it comes and it goes. I'm learning to realize how to cut it out with my mind. I arrived at Bushwillow, the aid station. I think that was the lowest for me in the 100-miler. I had reached a point where I needed to make some change. The pain had got to a stage where I couldn't handle that anymore and I couldn't find anything to change it. And I needed to get out of Bushwillow as quick as possible because I didn't want to get too comfortable. And the guy that was in front of me was a good pacer in the sense that he was keeping me on track for the time that I wanted to get. So as soon as he left, I left. I could see that he was in a bad way as well.
It's about 48 kilometers from here to the finish. Now, it's 48 k's of trails. So in trail world, we kind of say 1 kilometer on trail is about 2 kilometers on the road. So a 48k trail is equivalent of a comrade. So imagine these guys have done 50 k's already. They've done 2 comrades already, back to back. And now they're facing another one. And they've got their worst climb lying ahead, so the real hard, gnarly climb.
I don't think it's wise to sit. The next one is scary. It's a canopy, hey, no. That's the one I'm really wanting to get over.
I think Bushwillow is a very wonderful symbolism of life because Bushwillow is one of those halfway marks in life you can want to often stop and say, this is good enough, I'll take this. Because it's quite a nice stopover and there's a fire. It's like what the end can be like, but it's going to be even nicer, but I'll take this. It's a compromise. But then you know you've got to move on, so there's that pain. I've got to let this go. I've got to let the warmth go. I've got to let the love go. I've got to finish this race.
10 kilometers after Bushwillow, I was amazed to find out that I started overtaking people who flew past me 20, 30 kilometers before. I felt good. I was on track. But then I started to realize that the weather was turning again, and I didn't want to be out there for another night, and I didn't want to be out there when it started getting dark.
I didn't know how far Bongo was going to take me. The canopy was still on its way. I knew I was going to do it in the dark.
I thought I was going to start running in the night. I started thinking that I needed a head torch and I would be penalized.
No, you won't need that. You'll be there long before dark. Long before dark.
I hit a brick wall at 3 kilometers to go. And then I met up with a guy called Barry Dependent. And he said to me, when you run around the corner, you're going to hear the finish.
It was now survival, because we've got to get through the worst part of this run, which is canopy tours into the hills, into the mountains, into the forest, where it's very technical, it's raining hard, and then down that mountain pass, knowing I had to go through another game reserve, another mountain pass technically, knowing I still had maybe 50 kilometers to go. You're in a forest that's hundreds of years old, and it's wet and it's pouring. The path is slippery, and especially downhill, you literally need a little false move and you slip, and you know that there's a cliff face or there's a drop.
We were up on that mountain for about 2 hours, 3 hours, and I just said, Andre, we need to get off this mountain now.
We've got to run, walk, let's not stop. It was the best thing could have ever done for me. That was the darkest time of the run.
Past 9, we found Andre on the side of the road, a big smile on his face, but freezing. His shins were very, very sore. Shay, he's in a lot of pain.
Even if I touched the front of my foot slightly wrong, the pain would shoot up like a knife to my ankles.
But he didn't complain. He just says, no, we can't run, slow it down. He was also battling with a bit of fatigue, so often we'd find him like shifting a little bit off the road, pulling him back.
It's like when you're in front of a TV or a couch and you can't stay awake, but you can just lie down. But I couldn't lie down because I would freeze.
I was following him on the tracker. It was slow going. Shivered like, I think 2 hours. I mean, he'd hardly moved. And then I knew Shivered in for a long night.
Nice, guys.
Awesome. He's falling asleep on his feet. He's so tired.
While he's working.
He needs a good cup of coffee.
We've got a fresh cup of coffee for you.
Let's go.
Come.
You're not coming last, there's a guy sleeping.
I don't mind being lost.
As long as you feed. Yeah.
I remember arriving at 11 Car Kloof. I almost felt like we're going to see Jesus in a manger because this is raw shed. And I actually thought we were in the wrong place. I honestly did think I was hallucinating and waiting for the wise men, you know? And there was this bed, this mattress next to the fire, and there's this body lying there, and I thought, shame, they must have found some beggar on the way. And then the guy said, no, that's one of the runners. And they found him who had fallen asleep on the roadside, and they had to force him to get up. The only way they made him get up emotionally and physically and spiritually is they made him phone his wife, and his wife made him get up. Get up for myself, get up for my baby. And it looked so warm, it looked so inviting. And there was this first aid, this medic there, and he said, can I check your ankles? And I said, yes, please. And only when he undid my shoes, I was shocked. I saw how swollen my ankles were. I couldn't believe how swollen my ankles were. I was such a fright. I said to him, what do you have for me? And he said he had a panado. So, really? Panado? But yeah, he gave me a panado, and he wrapped the ankles, and while I was sitting there, I was falling asleep. And I knew I wasn't going to carry on. I decided I'm giving up. And physically, I can't, even if I wanted to. I just could not do another step. So I turned around to Wayne and I said, I need to go to the vehicle. I need to just have 10 minutes of quiet time. I need to sleep. And he took me to the vehicle and I told him I can't carry on. So I said, I'm going to sleep for 10 minutes, wake me up, and then I'll decide. Wayne woke me up. He said, get up, you're finishing this race. It was an instruction. That's why I love the man.
Very warm jacket.
How was your nap?
So good.
I got up. There's Kirsten. Move. You're going.
Thank you. Go for it.
We just walked, and then the lights started coming again, and I thought, can't believe it, this is my second morning out here.
Yeah, it's 5:25, eh? And it's Sunday morning. I keep forgetting the day, to be honest. But that's not surprising because we've been awake for a long time and we're waiting for our very final 3 runners. I think that's a mantra that you see in 100-mile trail running. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other and you'll get there. Because of course you will. I mean, that's obvious. But guys fight demons out there. They fight themselves, and you go to so many different places in your mind. It's like being thrown a million life problems in one day, and how you solve them is your own personality.
It was that deep, deep knowing, that huge gratitude that Wayne did instruct me to finish the race. And Matt was there to share that experience with me, because we had done the Marathon des Sables together, and he was there to meet me when I did the Marathon des Sables, which everyone believed I wouldn't do. So Matt believed I would. That's why we do the run. We humans start believing in each other again. I did certainly start believing again.
I think at that ultimate distance, the 100 miles just strips everything away, and you can't pretend.
He would have taken out and literally can't even break into a jump. But that's what's needed to finish a 100-mile trail race.
Everything that is the most beautiful part of my life is for free. I don't have to buy it, I don't have to fly to it, I can get on my feet and run. I can share that experience with a friend, with my partner, and it's good enough. You know, it's more than enough. It's magnificent. It's ordinary. It's just amazing.